Se Ghana fo nim no mu san ma John Mahama be president biema eniem be sisi Ghana no obi antimi ntena Ghana mo pa mo date nto
Mekas and trauma, let me use the right word, it's lies. And trying the meaning some question or university and answer, oh, join the party no now, who share and tron dear, because the leaders themselves are lying. What I say, I say about me,
government in India make us a many dog Kenya against that. The Akufo-Addo government then started some project. One of it, yes, Nima Paloma Odona drains was initiated under the Akufo-Addo government sometime in June 2024. Now, offer that of the Odona dredging consistently to make, because it's no pump at the top. It will be a short, medium, long term. But offer the South Sanitation project and America say no work also began. The Buzia Highway drain system, was because maybe at the catchment areas, no population, you needed to find a solution to hold the water. Aside that, for the first time in Ghana's history, the NPP and the Akufo-Addo administration initiated where the procurement and installation of the flood early warning system. This was also in 2024, June. About the technical Niemano and Addo. However, Anami matches on his stomach. If Abna, Waba be host of UTV and Opa show. Now we buy a production team amount of Obimpe and then a squad there Iguechi. Now, Madam, Obana and Omo the paper basso, Madam Nema and we think say be a bit no one far to discuss. Also the fatu of me ready. When the baby so tenacity more points so the me ready. Now, if you no better show so and you're not getting the backing from your team, you can't blame them. You had people who had already commenced activities, any initiatives. You had contractors on the field. What this government has been busy doing is trying to find fault of every initiative that they inherited. People had to protest. They had to block the roads at a point to draw government's attention. Say,
NDC Ministry of Sanitation, so if you watching, I in so krato. Omoko Jessica wa World Bank se ombe yi gata numu chese fanye hwe no NDC ba sa sanitation ministry no yebegu no ni asan dia call local government maybe ansuo beto bia yebe yi gata numu nyina se ne be ya ansuo no ba ebenya kwan na asen na ansuo a etayiri ewo mo junction ho no
a few abusuya we de mame enchi a mfa wombra fidie iso na ensu yiri ene hu sensem ya sese ekoso Ghana ene nam so ama obi ade na no atomobi na ebinum kire se ene se ebinum katia anase ebinum kan gu John Dramani Mahama so aye wono anepe ena abana sa free se bra na opretumi no ode ya amanyosem etia MPP amanyokio ka se wo mutrinye ntuno mo ba ban mu anabasa basa ye ekoso o my Ghana nti ene amanipa bebre no anso nyina so amomo so etwa bi ede bono pa na so hwemu a nanka we nka oman ni nyina asudie efise o hawo na babeto ye nyina so na so ibinim da so eye na manwasem na Sammy Awuku ya wono na ye mra se badwane ede ma wono ma wo mo wa kuapem no fa bato mpesua so ewo epoema ntemu mekira Eastern region nene odinsem bebre no a ena ede atodwa ya wa kire mu se wo hwe niam ahodo bi ya MPP aban ya na His Excellency na Naro Danko Akufo-Addo de won ani mu de gu akwan mu a na ehwe aboa se de be ya insuo emba message apade ne akra ewo oman Ghana mu se de na Naro nankasa de tudwa se sebi enipa de se oman ne hwere no anya de ebetimi anya bio nanso ajapade ana se sika de eye denia ye se no ede yibo nipa ho ban a ye besan apesika na foforo bio enti wotwa sika anye kuma akra ana wo mo ede ehwe se de bia hawa hodo bia wo man mu no mo ebetimi asi ano kwan nanso so ebre NDC ba ye o ma bedane ne mani nyina ene EAC kampo ekaye be $200 million ya na wo ho no mo ani nyina ye for sanitation no eche se dia baka koye bibi foforo kura afrise o haw ewo o man ne mu ntiene Sammy Awuku woni NDC ni lawyer ba ko ne kopie mu ho na in fact o ma lawyer ne hunu se nye ne nyina na de ya monyosem kura ene o ma kakra efa no yenko na yenko tie onumunyamfo Sammy Awuku ebre ya kopie mu UTV no mo bonko mo efa nsu yiri ene eku Ghana de hye ho.
Government must lead even though the citizens have a role to play. And I'm saying this because Nipano, you cannot absolve yourself of blame as a government simply by saying, say, Timemufo will role to play. Timemufo, they have a role to play. But there are some policies, programs, and projects the government must lead. And I'm giving you an example. Between 2017 and 2024, the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government secured about 540 million cedis to help in flood mitigation policies and to manage sanitation issues and also for emergency response. And we are totally different from the Garrett project, a Greater Accra Resilience Integrated Development Project. And only was a total of about $330 million or so. Ocha 2018, the NPP government allocated 200 million cedis for annual desilting of drains to also help with the flood management system. So that we are constant because, look, the rains will not stop. And the rains will not stop for the politicians to, quote unquote, think about bureaucracy and sanawaba. Until now, you're a friend of force majeure, you don't have control over it. But what you can do, what the citizens now able suffer, is and they are not asking, say, buying country and so say unjaito, but they are asking their government, say, prepare before the rains will come. To be tried in 2024. Now, some few things the NPP did and Sana Omofia Bem. In fact, there was a subcommittee of cabinet under President Akufo-Addo 2017 a mapping out a comprehensive program to understudy and study Nintia in crime in Tobiano and It's based on that, then the government decided, okay, with this comprehensive strategy, we'll go out to look out for funds. And the man approaching World Bank and other donors. Then the World Bank first released over $200 million. And no being a buy as part of your integrated program, Outback Greater Accra to be able to stand on its feet and be resilient when in Siotwa. First of all, in somewhere 2024 or so, church, February 2024, the Addo River dredging project also started. February 2024. Achimota Abofu drainage. And also you're starting in March 2024. Then baby says South Kanashi drains and also you're starting and all these places are major hotspots in Accra. And then we have the Buzia Highway and also the drainage the construction of sad drain systems we awarded and then it was mobilized for contractors to start. Now saying there was a World Bank meeting. Your ranking member Martin J. Mensa Kosa, who's ranking on works and housing, sat in it and asked the ministry officials. Says Sani Meya President Akufo-Addo about mere time you almost start here, especially major in 2024. Akosi saying almost it has stalled because one, almost the criminals have taken over some of the places and now earmarking as holding ponds, about 18 holding ponds within Accra. So they'll be able to hold some of these water bases, while air corner for the water to recede. Secondly, almost the Sika SADP edition for contractors to keep on moving. Abana has not done that. What the government did in 2025 was to set up anti-flooding task force. Made up of the coordinator also is Mr. Standogwe, who is deputy chief of staff. And that's coordinating team. It has two ministers. Minister for Works and Housing, Kennedy, Minister for Local Government, Ahmed Ibrahim. These two ministers, sitting at the top is a deputy chief of staff with no compelling mandate to compel these two ministers to do what they have to do. Clearly, if I ask you today, the issue of flood management is under which ministry? The NDC in opposition said the sanitation ministry will be collapsed and merged with the Ministry for Local Government. Now here you also set up a coordinating role anti-flood whatever task force and put two ministers. So every day they themselves don't know who is expected to manage what. And the rains will not stop. Thinking that manage the bureaucracy, or the rains will tell you, say, the two competing ministries should come to the table and tell us what they are doing. And then nobody has been able to tell us since January 2025 what has government done in preparation of some of these rains. None of the media houses is able to tell us, okay, you are buying penny for Kasa, from January 2025, when the MPP left office, what has been the structures, the processes? Where are we with these things? So it is true. Don't politicize the issue of floods. However, those who politicize the issue of floods are those in government today. In Sotopiana, they blamed it on Akufo-Addo. Go back for the tapes. But this is not the time for blame game. We want solutions, but not rhetoric. And noting that even in the midst of blame game under the NPP era, we said now the most compelling, comprehensive strategy is for us to go with our Garrett project, where one map pay out almost all the issues confronting Accra. Accra today is the engineer's nightmare because the city was built without also looking into the future of population expansion. Until you are here today, people keep building, but any sufficient even drain systems that you have. Until you can have people setting up real estate and estate, but be somehow comprehensively, working on drain system, and they don't have it. And now, Accra became like a fishing town. People would look, watch your TV swap. People were using boats on the streets of Accra, boats. So these are not normally. I was particularly surprised. The president went round. I listened to him. As usual, people are building on waterways. People that is also continue with absorbing yourself of blame. The people are not listening for you to absorb yourself of. They want their government to lead. They want their government to prepare for floods. And there's something interesting. This month of June, mind you are talking about just yesterday's one. 3rd June, there was another heavy rainfall in Accra.
Yeah.
Post that, what did their government do? That day, and 3rd June is high and Tamkesia also on our calendar.
Yeah.
I think 2015 or so. And also on a single night, we lost 150 Ghanaians. The same 3rd June again in Susato Subrani. And then what did the government, even after the 3rd June, what from January last year to date, 3rd June, a rude awakening. What did the government do after 3rd June? People have lost their livelihoods. And Madam Host, beyond the statistics you are seeing, say, 100 homes flooded, 200, beyond these statistics and behind these statistics are human beings. In Kofono share omonema. In Kofono share omojapade. In Kofo lose livelihood. And for some of them, it's going to take a long time for them to bounce back. Obi wa ni dwetre ketwa bia e na ho kire mu odidi dwa eko ahye. Enema wakofa nka sabia ye o force nyema nka okwakoton na odi ahwe ne ye ne ma ne kunu ne busua ene ne ma no it's gone. Sabe fridge kakra bi so odi ton ice water ne yi eko ebi pokra the worst case scenario so kra happen you lose what this year. And Americans at midnight you said that almost 9 people and I assure are still many people are unaccounted for. So it is not enough for His Excellency the President to just store the affected areas in a chopper. What is the strategy? How are we leading the conversation? How are we ensuring that near ACC, because the rains won't stop. The rains will simply not stop. And now the rains won't stop for the 2 competing ministries of local government and works and housing to come to a conclusion and say, when I say we decided. It's clear that the government's management of the flood situation has been fantastically nightmarish. They haven't been able to manage it well. Because this is not the first. When President Mahama was in opposition, I remember his post clearly that he, and if I have your time, I can even read it, saying that the Akufo-Addo government had not managed issues of floods well. The Akufo-Addo government did not blame President Mahama. They did not blame the Ghanaian people. They decided to still focus on the strategy of delivering a comprehensive strategy. And no be NMI abiners at the time Nanado's government, Nanado Baumia government exited. They started the Addo river drainage system. And now you have started that of the Achimota Abofu drainage system. And now are holding the waters for the city of Accra. Now you have started that of the Buzia Highway. You have started that of the South Kanishi areas. And in the Garrett project as a strategy, they designated 18 holding points. They are not paying these contractors. They are not getting on with it. And the interesting thing, there's another video which I will show you. And if I'm minded by your producer, I'll forward it to you. Mamu UTV now, which I decided to. Who be the other news that it be here in my store, and I'll forward it to you to play. Ahmed Ibrahim, the Minister for Local Government, says some almost in sanitation contracting, you try Zoom Lion contracting, you try the Mahama assemblies. You were supposed to recruit people since last year. As of this year, maybe none of them. None of the assemblies had recruited people to manage the waste. In Tibola, year to go. Where do you think it was going to end up? The Tibola has found its way into our bedrooms. It's only because a year for left, right, center, and that video I forwarded to your YouTube when you're another network. Namaka said, and it is sad. Now, before you even come in, just 30 seconds. It is sad that, look, when you watch some of the scenes, this is not the time for talk, and yet time for rhetoric, and yet stakeholder meeting. Let nobody confuse us as another committee. Me say a comprehensive blueprint involving engineers, involving foreigners, Ghana's local partners, foreign partners, engineering entities to come together with that comprehensive strategy. It was on the basis of that the World Bank decided to release funds for it. Even though in excess of over $330 to $350 million. You could rock COVID mono at the government decided to apply some to solve the COVID issues. The NPP look for money to replenish it. It will be a confused committee. It will be a group of unwilling people ready to do the unnecessary.
What can a asamon and a engineer Isaka Amon? What say Ekasai was say a new assembly sena. I say it's me a waste management department. I will be in charge of a waste in a day. Now one should be assembly sena. No one far the other business you were real. Obi ohono ma baby any fee we expect to obey nanti adia kono. On to me, say nipa ne kodu obi obedu on so. Yes say Ayema. Sign fako. Sign fako no nya tese obesan dia ko ni fee. Nti gates ni mu ena odi ebebu. Do you think say sa asema papa ya raise and also another factor etimi emma yen gates no eye choked. What can say citizenry, we have responsibility.
You have a situation at hand. Whereby there was a ministry responsible for sanitation, any water, any government prioritizing sanitation will clearly tell you, say, if you want to combat and fight the issues of sanitation, to say a department.
So do you think, sir? Because someone will establish that ministry, in a way,
so with that, what that meant was that the Maubenya a laser focused approach towards sanitation and water and floods. Because they say if you maybe the video Mamu UTV, I forwarded it to you and your producer. Me say the Minister for Local Government. I'm not saying it, and for the benefit of your viewers, I'll plead with you. So the Mamu capture saying that the issue of sanitation, Mamu kasi yen near ball and no collection in the assemblies. Now go to our cities, go to the assemblies, go to the municipalities. The place is not engulfed in filth, because when the government asks for a pull-out, pulling out the sanitation work as institutions. So the moment you did that, all that you needed to do was then you should have fast-tracked the processes of getting the sanitation companies maybe at the local level. I'm not here to do PR for any company. It's not my interest. But once government decided to disengage from a sanitation arrangement with an entity, government should have a backup plan that over Abekan area, Abna Obimpe Company Limited charged to collect refuse, manage sanitation, manage the refuse. But if you don't do that, and now say, okay, Dr. Abedu, Sammy Awuku, Abnani Obimpe, Momo Imna and Yechem, then there's a vacuum. Who feels it?
Abuja for Ayeka say Dr. Parkwesi Ediafo Abedu, lecturer with Unimax, also executive director, Emerson's Africa. Abba Hasint, Mamma Doga Paba. Now what to say?
When you say, I don't know, but also was so wanted them.
Yamia do me why a fan of paper.
And then
only honorable Samuel could be among us with me.
Yeah, but
We with the season of World Cup and just in
maybe somebody say gap in your wide do.
If you have a co-parliament. Maybe we are a co-parliament.
Matthias,
no,
I'm not a payment for in checkers in from my.
Okay, don't what me so member also ama why no honorable Samuel Kuka Sem Cecia no ka honorable Ahmed Ibrahim ni video me pachaye ready mama yen share beba Cecia.
Zoom lion anana aircraft Ghana for the NGO for say Ghana for the Biafra yemfa sika no koma metro assemblies no get this kana mama nipa no afọ mu mi ma bai mi hu say yakase nipa we na assembly afọ mu a omu no mu prapra mi mu where are they omo ha mu bai Zoom lion emperor Sikana Diamond, Nibano, so I go and a better than tell me why you should remain there. Oh, me, young power, me, Baha. Ye call land so side. God, that is that I was in Japan, something like a home for my This is yeah, the amount is the month. Mika is you a Pentecost leader. Me, your Pentecost leader, no friend of me and Sammy say, oh, I don't do that. I don't do that. Yes, Mahama. Yes, Mahama. 1 year, 2025, Zoom Live and Yedma, 2026 on Yedma. Sasikano, Yedima. Uko baby as you, my family 50. Oh, this my family 100. Sally 45,000 now never 1 year. Yes, you no more 1 year. Sikano cut Masna Kaki for no. Yet your mamma and no thing I'm sick of. The Panama from
Hey, Ghana. Anyway,
One law more. Your friend will be res ipsa loquitur. The fact speaks for itself. I have nothing useful to add.
Doc, that's your brain way. So that's
you have not an payment fine checkers and from a washing here now. No matter so on your board pay the man bentham traffic na other issues or some kakra. Na Mrs. Chesuma honorable Sammy Awuku.
Doc,
Metal catcher.
Doc, Papa.
Abna me should have been cherry that was a common to and I didn't. Mamma can be
environmental.
Abna easy, me use the minimum time honorable starting, but me sure for the time in Kenyan as a mom, no, I can't be
But I mean, before I started, and another way.
No movie. No, me the baby fifty pena. You know, or starting. Hey, Abna, our whole understatement. Our whole understatement. Still now, no, in fact, Miraho. And I remember Nam is it often a large here, and I can still, I mean, we draw now. Nanka say no, you can still feel and go far. I mean, home shops, only fee. We are actually feel it done, mama. We soon as in the bay, no, I mean. It was an eye, so in fact, not another terrible experience, especially with somebody we are very passionate about environmental issues. And the baby I'm land management has okay, yeah, and it's sad. It's not easy. On your easy day will be by Juma years. What to TV, what on the fridge. I see them kaka my trace with the horse, but never her can cry. Then within a day, no soon never will be you. Sue after baby as a call. We send them. Look at the way I Ghana for bread. And suddenly we think we see 2-3 bedroom house. Now in Sue bottle one day. Now the entire structure in Nano. So you cry, I make a stay because as soon as they could do sir and say one lives you power farmer painful. Abna say if I was in that situation it can mean how it's going to be like. Not that areas now them flood no cause say more them situation at that moment. Maybe very well them from a kakrama with ye. I don't know how I would have felt. And then you see you don't blame one calamity into one so much of Sunday. Oh, feelings neutral. Now, oh, so what time within the next 30 minutes? Oh, sorry, or but so within the next 30 minutes, or but so within the next 1 hour. And sometimes, even the decision to move out of baby or no to go and find another safer place, no, relative what to know. Now, oh yeah, you're too late. And even so, we move if you feel going to
that's a question.
Oh, move where can you be sure there? Hana America, safe. And look at the way as you know spread all across. If for car now if I can't because there's no cars will move. The cars are not moving. In Tabana, it's a very terrible. In fact, it was a very terrible situation yesterday, and it's unfortunate today. I mean, I think the many meteorological agencies in Como, and they are saying that we expect more rains. It's scary. It's scary. So if you see June 3rd, 2015, 2015, June 3rd. Now what is happening now is virtually a repetition of Mosi those time as in Sweden or CBME, and it's on command. These are not yo because we are talking about human life. So abna nipanunkwa, we are talking about death. We are talking about their livelihood. Basic things on my welfare, basic things. And if say you and you see what you want on you not to them that turn the lights normal rain downpour them are just within a longer period. Now all these issues are happening. To answer your question is that it's a terrible feeling or a very sad situation as a country almost 70 years. Capital town. Oh, the other cities in Cape Coast now can even think that, but capital town, the eye of the country. All that you have to say is Accra. I mean, that is how we project our country. Capital city, host to beer, and all that. And I say, we are confronted with such a situation. It's simply sad, and we're exposing him big time. As a country, how are lazy? How are da? I mean, we've slept for a very long time. We slept for a very long time, and it is my prayer and hope there. Because June 3rd, you can't there. And at a point, I remember one of the slogans which was going on was "Never before," and is it never again? Never before. You know, never again. That is more than 10 years old. Never again, never again. No, that's why we're again you. Never again. No, that's why it's very frustrating situation. But let's go into the issues now. Let's go into the issues. As you can, MPP NDC now one and government one they are not helping us. Sunday, Ghana has today. Or your accumulation of more sea from 19, I mean, we see, I was young for 1992 in Fambra, or your accumulation of what leadership has done, any painful wire from 1992, Captain most your accumulation, or 1 + 1 to 2 necessary, you won't see here. I will not sit here, Honorable Namin Kade, and this for no one, Madame Fladiwaba. Her leadership has failed us, and they should agree one June 2 day, one more hen. Abna, you see. I mean, I believe in leadership so much there. If, as a country, as a community, even as a few, if you have good leaders, things go well. And I'm repeating again, as a country, as a community, as even a house, a household, if you're a family, if you have good leadership, problems are solved. Into the problems we are seeing now are simply out of leadership failure. Starting from the presidents that we've had, starting from the ministers who have been in charge, down to the chiefs, down to the assembly members, every leader beer we can talk of, to the DCs, all of them, the coordinating directors, all the people, leadership, we feel him. We feel him big time. And say, if you are an individual, another say you are a positioner, you should know that you have a responsibility. I'm not saying to leadership, I don't try, because leadership or your Susie, leadership or you have to be there to solve a problem, to make sure that people's lives are better. And to say, if you are in any leadership position, starting from the assemblyman up to the chiefs, up to the DCs, the ministers, the MPs, up to the president, let's say you know that you don't have the capacity, you don't have the willingness, you don't have the ability. You need them, to lead. Don't try it. Don't try it. Because you can't go for leadership. No way, no for problem from blaming from Obi. Who is the follower? Follower you wanna. You see, what's it? The name is leader or Kenzefo or can easy can. It's an easy can is with you. So meaning there, as if you are right to be, you have to take the mantle. That is the first issue that I want to talk about. Sure. If in the Ayeka, I think they may take a lot of commentaries, and I got for him Subani here, and I got for him Subani here, and here's Subani West. Most of the people now know if it's a painful now, they want to shift the blame. No, wasn't my hand to me phone. Yes, Yejutum, until it's me phone. Abuna, let me be some paying be there. Say Ghana you to Kwanok or UK, or US, and all the countries now, you can have now. Wakwa, who sit down will get a Musumana.
And maybe I will be a would so.
So, Okwa, Ozizi, another young or two get a mana. Ghana you Okoha on ye the Mazana in Wahano. So, why Dokoha? I mean, why Dokoha on your now has out to me?
Someone and Brani Juma.
One number Juma. You see the problem? Now, when done, let's make it vice versa. I'm not going to go to my China Kegalam say. But China for Ghana Kegalam say, why? Because if you have culture, way of life, if you go to Rome, do what the Romans do, it's when the Ghana, how Ghana for the was that too good Basa Ghana for the Assassin was incident team here to a baby. And so what they are able to do it, but I never going to me yet. The difference is about the laws. And this is why I must say leadership will fail him. Because what is happening now in our country now is that leadership no calls when will be fall victim and will be as a bonner. Leadership no call. Oh, you man small boy, oh you man party member, oh you me coordinating director, or you me party chairman, whatever. Calls. Authority. No, yes, the fiddle here laws or Ukumha. Until every time Biano, Mbano you're one side, leadership so course you're on the other side. No, yes, influences decisions and everything. Until yes, Equal Assembly now, you're a fiscal planning authority, you're a fiscal planning office or and I will call it fiscal planning or your land use and special planning office or but in Panama to one of them so on YouTube because on day you see baby always than you and so called pamper the worst will happen in day open your boyfriend you me pencil January function on in Juma. That is one part of the problem. Ya na who is it how go ya try see the man and then up to him way. Abna the same issue also by the same leadership. See, we are not planning our country. Any country we are not planning it. Since I reached in Kranaiwa, population is almost 6 million. Abna Sefa Kaswa Bakahon, Kaswa Central Region. But say if you do a Kaswa Benin Kran, you'll find Salum, you'll find Bra, if a tabakwan da azoko adna side if any day in can expect call these communities akaswa sawum nazia in day Ghana has a population of about 35 million no in can create na dam small communities in kaswa na obaka ho Accra and its environs making them what the population almost getting to if not half 1/3. In other words, Nimpa one can looking at the land size. Land size moves out 16 regions in Kanoso room, but cannot contain all the population. Abna Bazinta, if you are operate to Konope or Bankan, if you border operate to Konope or Bankan, if you takrade, if you libu or to Konope or Bankan, because the opportunities in Bibia no Hano. Abna, so what ba in Kana? You person so started or pejuma ya na de mu adum so oba no yejuma ne ya the next nobody home is to build a house because although you not see then also too it is the reason why and not nam kwan ho to offend and so it done all over the place because we are all thinking of building be happy to see then baby also you want to still find the land around inside you choked so that you can get your land because we have given reasons for people to come to Accra. NPP started one district one factory, fantastic idea. One district one factory. Do you know what it means? What side there? Nipa and Kodofi commander Albert Nankrano Commander Cigar Factory is working. Into Senipa 200 impa, they will stay in Commander and work there. One man can. The same thing that cashew no was no. And I will say if there's a factory there, you can all feed Brekum on Bankan, or by factory or Brekum. The same thing will happen to Border. And see, Alcadam police now, if it was well implemented, and a lot of people will be even demotivated to come to Accra because Accra number no cope ejuma. Number one, or it's about livelihood, it's about employment. It's say you discourage people from migrating to Accra, and then pressure no use to Accra. And can you pay one bogu ha? Even bogu ha so no matter what open no them. It's when two are rent or those in fact or renting part still not those in them because it's a not very Accra. Atasa. No one the land space in Accra no usra. It's all that will happen today. Me baby and so mpa moto na my then. My feel no me see the man because me don't handle we have failed to plan our cities. The issue of the congestion is a big issue. People must move away from Accra, but we are not giving reason for them to move away.
What kind of people are? Yen share, abayaba, abayko. Enwa yene na no bibo he ekasai or a former deputy general secretary for NPP. Or can send Mr. Abra no musi a Jubilee House. Where one of the people are opposing yese. A bayanka yen found quite chiri, a free a yakra. Said your bear said ye the corner, a yet denasa area no sono, ye be develop it. Esan say, O man penny, not sana be a nasa in the office, no me identity. Add the sense so poor ebe call your roots near the bit near Yidia Coho. And Abra a president Mahama. A call shave or them we must share your walk Cassania the Oboso, and Mokasa we say in India, or when they say, the next 20 years near there. Yan take step on her, and ye juma. Imagine say, and they say, be a me ministry be nas Makwaku, for instance, a be a dodowa. Mako, because I mean, say, Hona me qua. And you will say, you bet me a baby or nothing gradually, not so. But, and they know. Abayi ye bibia enkan ye see any major way say bia e wo sa say no ye capital but as so we take the bold step and as a bold initiative no so that ye now so ye dey ye be di akire bi ye ka koi e yemra ene dey ye adwuma ye see ensi dan wo ha say usi ya ne adwiri assembly no on regular basis no mo kwa check it ya report wo ha say last year ye demolish ye dan a enei we enim krompo kan say dan na fefe you know so nim say dan fefe nipa na si dan no ehin fo na esen komo emra no ho but ehin fo na be make sure say be enforce sa emra no enti se ne wo ka say obi mo obi anya adwuma wo ha sei enti wo be prayer pedan e wo ha ba se me wo adwuma wo sunyane adwuma no eye papa me ya me nye sika e di free money ade me prison me si dan wo sunyan ho no mo bibi ni say obi free sunyan no ba enkran but me kasa say be ministries ni bi so wo sunyan member ama me boa interest aban ni nyina che say ejina
aban me say nsa make we are not planning our cities in one ni na ejina planning do abna you know hwe sister in there Greater Accra industrial area Tema all the factories are there eba circular area second the whole can you have a lot of factories also there that same enclave we move kakra ko yim na ministries ministries nature what do you think the last man kind of had there's Tudu there's Makola all the the major markets are Ghana no me say here as a over room or forester circle Bekuma they expect there being wo no say you know how being wo Makola it will move from that place and no aba meanwhile the same Makola when I say honorable now all the all the government meeting and sorry that's where they go it's one direction it's a share come very well all the part traffic now one sided from Kaswa to Accra from Dodowa to Accra from Medina to Accra from Tema to Accra that's a small area it's a special plan community you know but imagine the ministries for example somewhere in the middle belt even the issue of see, people who can afford the move today. At this time in age, you can decentralization. And then there are people are still traveling far and wide to come to Accra, so that we have documents. We have you assign documents. Someone, why them?
Do Accra in Sabeka.
Abna. We are not planning our cities, and the result in that is one aspect. Now, the bigger issue, Abna, still lies on our land management. Land management in Abna. Here, I'm showing you to expose us land management. All the cities here, all the young fight it done assassin Ayeka. Besides the why the people are still still now war force day will be assassin. Assassin on young power the water the man what's done what do. Wetlands. Why the people the one wetland and all that. So demand and supply the pull and push factors no. In fact, are problematic, but that is where our institutions all the way the way we do institutions we feel abna institutions we feel Sunday share wetland assassin upon oba assassin to day in suta another stay in subiaba with 1 million suno doesn't have to move because assassin will hold now say wetland now offended water area na kasa ya feel is then what do yes then we nature no abuna ya so ya to go na pavement yes then we nature no ya bring na pavement it's pavement all over the place it's one compound na no there's no soaking you shouldn't do soak and assassin to soak in so no it's over there or slip in so to the nearby gutter that time so you be you be mpa usa or sumpa abuna nwa ayemuma it's so through pavement no so good outside the wall we so better going It will just spill over. You fail as a country. We have failed terribly. And for me, Abna, Mr. Sammy, you know, President Mahama, no post channel, on my name Yazan. And I'm sure they offer helicopter make a say no. Abna, Vim, I expect today was to be ashamed to address the issues on Vim or phone.
No,
honorable them committee. No, we have to be radical about this. We have to be ruthless about this.
Okay.
Are they ruthless about this? Right? Ghanaians say we are funny people. Since I the new one, na obiara you. Man shouldn't say quite. The last day said discuss a flood. They will relax. This is the time for me. Problem now, but now here now you do today. Oh, this problem is it. I've been because I have from. It take that radical action.
Demolish.
Because sometimes you hear some radical action to address the issue once and for all.
Another player started to can say there are places I say we need military officers there. Pow. It is the area we say as a gutter the more you chug and near Mugumini at the moon will be affected. A more responsibility.
Parliament to answer, I feel like your contempt. You're the man. But seriously, or they radical of the situation because the human face issues not all does on him too much.
And another thing, so we dog the meeting, you know, cassette is so manful. Also, honorable, you're a politician. Another thing, so I must realize here, say, when they are in opposition, I was said you must see a cassa with issues about flooding. Just say, the way we say, come oh, it's easy, but the moment the Nipan Baba Ben is not cassa knows what's a
I believe the young politician's name was Robot. That is their problem. Into the human face, one person now you vote. They have your vote. They are always exchanging the bad attitude with votes. That's the problem with our politicians. Okay. But this is why I mean, it can be feel the President Mahama. Or nice opportunity because you be a vote accept. I wish that President Mahama didn't go. I mean, he has a very nice opportunity. No re-election. So you go all out and leave that legacy once and for all.
Okay. So obisu fini party mo beba obi ni legacy so you radical
no abna maybe you need sometimes you need such actions to leave a good leadership. Leadership on anybody, it's about making the needed impact. Say yes, assessing the people who complain. There's no policy being 100% support that.
Okay.
But eventually the same people will come and talk good about it.
Okay.
What is leadership, Abna?
Mate. Honorable.
Well, many doc, doing near money P, but it was on any drink. If doc has both the NDC and the MPP have failed in the management of the floods, sir. And the reason why I'm doing on a matter of principle, we said the Accra flooding situation, it dates back to the early 1930s and about. But in understanding the situation, Abai needed to lead. Debia is so there had to be a solution. That solution, under the Kufuor government, they try to bring all these stakeholders together in the field of engineering, in mapping, in surveying, in flood management and all. Then the cabinet subcommittee tasked to develop that roadmap and making sure, say, okay, there are some few recommendations that we needed to have. One, across is become the engineer's nightmare. What the engineers envisaged many years ago, into where you expected maybe a community of 1,000 people, you have 10,000 people living there. Where planners and be a gutters and pay 500 next year until say some no, there's anybody 2,000. So because of that, city a grow to the left and right, entering into eastern region, entering into central region. Sometimes if you not cross even with the Raka so Accra, you still think you're in Greater Accra. And some and Fawon come much towards the other side, but also towards the Adenta, towards the Yarefa, Edu into the Ebri and the eastern region. Now for the Wenifia Central. In doing all this, government in India make us a many dog Kenya doing that. The Kufuor government then started some project. One of it, yes, Nima Paloma Odona drains was initiated under the Kufuor government sometime in June 2024. Now, offer that of the Odona dredging consistently to make, because it's only pump at the top. It will be a short, medium, long term. But offer the South Sanitation project and America said no work also began. The Buzia Highway drain system, because maybe at the catchment areas, the population, you needed to find a solution to hold the water. Aside that, for the first time in Ghana's history, the NPP and the Kufuor administration initiated where the procurement and installation of the flood early warning system. This was also in 2024, June. About the technical Niemano and Addo. However, Anami matches on his stomach. If Abna, what be host of UTV and Opa show. Now we buy a production team amount of Obimpe and then a squad there Iguachi. na madam obana ene omo the paper ba so madam niema ene we think say be a bit no afa again to discuss also the fact we me ready we na beba so tenase na ye more points so them here ready now if no better show ne so and you're not getting the backing from your team, you can't blame them. You had people who had already commenced activities, any initiatives. You had contractors on the field. What this government has been busy doing is trying to find fault of every initiative that they inherited. People had to protest. They had to block the roads at a point to draw government's attention. Say, too much. They stored the road. No, the construction was stored for like a year. Take that of the Kaswa road. And government is in continuum. Whereas it's clear, it's important. There has to be accountability, but don't let the people suffer at that expense. He's right. I warned the president yesterday. This is not the time for PR. You need tougher actions. Luckily for you, somebody has done the brain and the technical work. The projects and the initiatives started. All you have to do is to make sure, say, these things are a bit me. It has the potency of making sure, say, you are mitigating it. You cannot stop rains. You can only mitigate its effect. And that is what the government, in my honest opinion, and without due respect, respectfully, that is why I think that the president has failed in this. And look, let nobody also kid you. Sammy boy is not in Accra. Wasam and Fini Accra. One year, Sag, not for me to call Galamsey areas. Doc, you can't cross any. Just a few weeks ago, you saw a whole city submerged. That cannot be Accra the certain matter. So there's something also happening. Government's toughness on Galamsey has also been called into question. Make no mistake, you've had even churches declaring red means stop. Talking about the Presby Church a couple of weeks ago, dedicating themselves as a church to help also address this issue. You've had the head of the Pentecost Church, correct, by an appointee. You've had the Presby Church now wading into it. You've had the Catholic Bishops' Conference. So the government itself, its ability to protect lives and property, protect our natural ecosystem. Now, President Mahama catch in opposition, and you know even to the extent I was here, Kufuado, I'm born into Nansio Granto. That's a point. And then what's our preparedness? We've been caught pants down. Look, I can see the government doesn't choosing the words well, motivating a lot of bloggers and the media. I said motivating
to do what? To
try and issue dance around it. Now your man then night so where they are card now you share down the jokes we have a film encouraging media houses maybe time they need to speak about it near time they need to speak about it near look, people are struggling. No amount of PR gimmicks and confusing the electorate and the system. So the situation we find ourselves in, and I am fortified in my belief. So if the government had carried on, look, you've come to meet almost 200 million cedis worth of money as far as the Garrett Even project is concerned. You are not spending, you are not paying the contractors, the projects are stalled. So how would you get results? Your own minister, who is part of the anti-flood task force, minister for local government, this sanitation, how can that be the fault of the citizens? If the government decides to abrogate all contracts in the sanitation sector, good. Replacement you don't replace. Is it the fault of the citizens to commence procurement process? Is it the fault of the citizens to come and sweep the street? That's not my fault. That one I won't share in the blame. However, the fault of the citizen is when we say gata no wakoto solid waste agum. A waterway no wakosi dance so. That one citizen is at fault. But anointing and when the citizen is at fault, there are measures in our constitution, in our laws, in our acts, in our bylaws for the government to remedy the situation. This is not, if you want to, President Mahama, this is not time for PR. If you want to make everybody happy, then you have to sell ice cream. Ice cream is the only thing that when you sell, nobody is crying when eating ice cream. We need the toughness of a leader. And that is why we believe, say, look, elections have consequences. About to the consequences, that's the government's failure. Because if you have an opportunity to lead, leadership is not a team sport. When you are in charge, be seen to be in charge and leading the people towards greater prosperity, protecting them. You swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of Ghana and all of us. So I will not say, you may go in a gamut and I say in a cocktail and a yin out for. The NPP will not be part of saying yin out for. Me say what the citizens are for. They are measures that the government will at your disposal. In our assemblies, where unauthorized structures are there, you have assemblies. And again, that reminds me, isn't it strange, say Dr. Bedune Abna? Say, ye see that one now can say a dying emphasis, and you make an emphasis or them. You see somebody doing foundation, or be clear line, so, or be your foundation, we see blocks or your first floor. What time will be? Was it 2 bedroom? No, 3 bedroom, maybe an abon sign. Was you? When they say go. So what's the essence of having the municipal assemblies? They have assemblymen, and the assemblymen are in every electoral area. So meaning that the assembly is represented in every electoral area, and all these assemblymen belong to committees at the assembly. Is that not it? Into no couldn't be not the bar, not the MCE. It's your job. It's not the job of Abna Chibwache, Dr. Eduafo Abedu, and Sammy Awuku to go and recruit and employ people to go and sweep the street. It's not our job. People are being paid to do that. That's why they are ministers of state. And that's why we have a government led by President Mahama. And that's why you have MMDCs. So if the government is unable to recruit after abrogating a contract for a year, then the minister comes to stand on TV, say, beyond what you said, what has been done to fix the situation. And then Nyaman Mera hope is that people have lost their livelihoods. Nkofo ediemia, nkofo etwejajo. Na wo show TV so a enka wa ebe also be share to set TikTok video out there. But if I had there wo failure, yan kan di wachi a o se agro no ede. Obi wo hono ma ni dwetwe na ye 2000 Ghana cedis. O da kofa of force one bail. Se na be ya o ton odi be share na ire ene ne ma. It's gone. Wakwa kofa sandals. Wakofa ensichi a oton. So in all this, you cannot tell me say it cannot be. Government is elected to lead the people in times of difficulties. When the Kufuor was there, they say the people had every right to speak at that time, and that is why the President Mahama would. You cannot tell me say 140 millimeters and say madam that one you say madam ko cycle kudra odona ho na catch them say 140 millimeters a year toy no and na work measure who can take measure the measure na who the year a toy go to Ghana meteorological no problem tu na kwa ko chichi obi a ne niema wa hwere ne niema we lose ne livelihood insu afa ne ba ne kono ukojuna catch say wo the measure AC from emergency ni fi asase ase no skill na edeni na we are wasa ba so di ma betena yiti baby the god about the mampanyini chair no say we say na to ntina it's unable to dry. It is a for the sign to go sana I mean come on. Do we have control over when the next rain will come?
No, we don't.
Okay, so you don't have control over it. What you have control over are the mitigation measures. And what they want to make sure say a protecting woman for like when Kufuor was president during COVID, which was a world emergency, a public health, global public health emergency. He made a profound statement. Or say we know how to bring our economy back, but we do not know how to bring lives back until he will break even the vote at the bank to protect his people. That was a leader speaking at that time. Why do Bamini Suba? I've lost my things. Now Sushiamia, you shall dance square.
You honorable home, so look, into square Benny in Ibisiano.
Aluta Square. That's what the people are complaining.
But as look right there, all of us are seeing there. A Dana Ayeka there will see. I mean, we'll see the municipal assemblies. What will see done? These buildings we also will see during the NPP's time. And those times, they had MCs, they had district directors. What will see them done? So it's go back to the issue of all of us. Okay.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I said to me before, no, we also have a role to play. I said when I was talking about the NDCs, any assembly, say the assembly members in every electoral area. That one, regardless of regime.
Thank you.
But it is not to go and enforce or say, at the end, started right from foundation level. When you have town and country planning, you know the development of each area. You know where your waterway. You know where you have to make sure so we're demarcating for recreation. Any other. Now what you have now? Now we are just an interesting people. Yeah, the Pokwasi interchange. There may also be the Choba Koshasi and Obabe. But you don't remember that. Yeah. So if the authorities at that time had allowed say Choba under an overhead, you can never pack away. What could it be?
They drew one
so where even Timemu have heard the laws. That's why government you have at your disposal the laws, the act, the bylaws to act. Leadership is not a team sport. When you're leading, be seen to be in charge. You take the decisions to buy the bullet. A good word gamble. A more COVID buy, nations had choices. What should be to say US? They prioritize the economy over their lives. They lost millions. What should Spain? What should Italy? It was choices. Another says, look, will be an say the boy man for no because why? You did not have enough health infrastructure if I did not spread it. So what you have to do is to make sure so preventive. You are aggressive on the protocols to make sure say first so that when street is so. Satan one table so that you could no ukrabano before beba wa bi mu I say oka and making sure what it you are doing it. People confirmed. Why is it that now we are pretending say no we the enye say yabo pepe passem nkofo so nkofo church that we have a role to play. I've admitted though but when we are the laws are there to make sure they checkmate us.
And the what's that kind of comes 2024? Must I say the initiative?
You say flood and a flood warning system.
Why 2024?
We say after a comprehensive strategy.
During 7 years,
so that within the 7 years, make no mistake, we're doing annual desilting. Also constructing storm drains. And also making sure, say, when you have the comprehensive strategy, and one recommendation here say, let's have 18 pumps, detention centers, where in Sonoto there are those within Achimota, Abofu area, Mile 7, Taifa, there's a holding area. Detention center. But from where we work, water basins, no. It's when you have that now, in Sonoto, we better confine it to an area where you are not
the pressure.
Fantastic. But then the other one that they did was also to make sure, say, initiative, areas, maybe Buzia highway to make sure some drain system you begin. You check that off. Maybe I'm in these headquarters call Adabrake Force. Nima Paloma Odona was also a project. Wafa, the Kanishi area, Wafa cycle area. So once you have all, and again, I missed out on something, though. The Ministry for Local Government also made it a point. Say all the assemblies now the detention centers located in area. You forbidden for even allowing any structure near it. And it was compliant. Into why is it that the enforcement and the leadership is missing now? Look. Now the reason why me as an MP I'm speaking that way is that when people are affected, it's why you so hano. If you know how, and family but I found the indirectly because the confusion is here.
I think I'm the issue. I mean the harm has already been caused. But another dimension, whilst you are looking at addressing the underlying issue, I think we can't also feed the management of the disaster, the after event. How are able to rescue and support and restore people's lives. I think if June 3rd issues as of today, there's one citizen in government court there when compensation has not been well served. June 3rd victims, you know. Yeah.
That's what would every way say beer. I mean, and I think
that at the point, yeah, I know they're more mobilizing. You are even mobilizing for them now. I think that's also another thing that all exposing in past a country how you prioritize the human welfare. The same, into me, best strain there. Me and my way so on one of those things that we see when the issue come out. Now you are but open the need. I mean the time or you call to the aid of the support of the who are affected now. Now you know so as a better politics. Since you can say Abna Nkrofu Yamwa, Nkrofu Wakasa say, Nkrofu Wadana say, Nkrofu one Fizama. I can tell the blue artists I make say empower the crampono on them only. It's your best painful. Your best painful the great day.
And not more. Me say and Jacob could be a Kasai. I think it was in Gomoa East or something. Okay. Or say not more office. Bicycle type. Let me tell
you. Also when you and it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. I say Gomoa putting on work very interior and not the way then the same one. And so let's not joke with this.
We are located on yearly basis funds for emergency relief. About not more. Yearly basis.
How much?
In the budget. Sometimes 100 million, sometimes one because
check a budget. Check a budget for this year, but
in total, sometimes. But in total, about our allocation to management of these disasters, and about 550 million within that period. Why? Because me say quite the book of Ecclesiastes. Pardon me and permit me to be biblical. Or say no one can anticipate the time of disaster. Like a fish caught in a cruel net or a bird caught in a wicked trap, so are humans caught at a time of calamity when it suddenly falls upon them. Mitchell. Or say, nipa bia no bit minidi nani ebu eda breach rebebono. Or say, etise empata wonsuomo na konson yino. Ana noma onem yu akosi dua so na efidie yino. Or say sana breach rebo nipa emra nani ndaso. So it is clear say disaster bit me at wa when. But if you don't prepare for emergency relief, and say not move for is me. Almost on your go-to person at the assembly. I'm not
the one who is responsible. But Abraham put this on over there. Yes, if that is the case, if that fund was there annual, then June 3rd in community, they are Ghanaians and the government here continues. What did you do to come to the aid of them victims during that year?
June 3rd, you see, that 2015.
2015, yes.
So the funds was set up.
Yes, the funds were set up.
The funds, no, I don't want to pretend I have the knowledge of that, but I do know. So whatever funds was collected had to be accounted for, because some OGGs can the Koboa victims. So there has to be a probing to it. I am not too sure if the government completely did not do anything about it, because it was an inherited problem, because it didn't happen during our time, and it happened 18 months before general elections. June 2015 to December 2016. That was 18 months. So the funds that was, did they disburse all? Because they are saying that their names were written. Some of them funds were taken in their names. I mean the names of the victims that they didn't get.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yes.
That is the problem. Me and my way so on one of those things. And the assembly say, you know, who are affected one truly genuinely know. You fish them out in the born. Me and find another kind of them politics na no. Even sometimes them support and cry sometimes they even politicize it. The MPP and also in KB, NDC and also in KB, those kind of things. I think that we have to look at their Ghanaians now to ensure I don't know what one. You ensure how we can also support them to bring back to life. Them obey also being a certain dignifying, you know, we be now also that and so I think that is the little plead. It's just them and painful, not more na presidents and them painful in our day. Whilst I address the causal problems, you know, afterwards. I mean, we see you share how we can also help support those affected. Now, you reintegrate on smoothly into a normal life. No one wants to on because yes, they are Ghanaians. They pay taxes. They have the right to earn a certain, I mean, welfare support systems and all that. I mean, things will normalize, but Nekasi now goes back to the fact today. we had that chair, and Ghana for him now engine there. We can't we going to your business as usual again. Say he had been there. Sooner things has come to normal. But same for this year. Ojay, but metro for worker by June 1st or first week of June July. Sorry, next year and next year we may even get more than this. And to say, I prepare, you're putting the right systems in place. And you're very radical about this problem. Now, you know, Katabu, there's a fair for one, when in Sunusano, a beer or two. Next year, Basanaba, no bar, a beer, may you more than that. In Tikakra, you ever say, woman, you're ruthless about this problem. Now, you address me once and for all. Now, Ghana, as Ghanaians, you answer your Kahun. Abna Ghanaians, answer your Kahun. What's the law, no? In one firm, but one firm in He also Ghana for your pembra, you do too much. Your attitude is me yet. Your attitude as Ghanaians no on yet. Because the Ghanaian knows there, oh, as he may now, friend and Bennett Shabakrampa, Mutuma, from pay be another Mutuma, catcher, may pay be, may politician be, me MPB, may DC be, and now pay be a minimum. Now, if you are working, be a nephew wide, and what you charge me to know, we write on that and then also do the wrong things. I told the baby, I'm not Yankasa as a man for no. I had to treat him for no one say because the Nippon in power there as I am yet, but just because of the Penino, another nearly than only Pino, Nipino name say, or Fena, I mean, what my threat today say, if you don't come to my ears, I don't know to Hosha another election time. Muslim metro offended Muslim then Penino end up being, you know, considerate, then they also start using their powers to manipulate the laws. In the Ghana for Hunaso, puts in the right perspective. Say you know to Sassibi and Sassibi I want to abna on you papa another on your Sassibi or the feeling as your man here. Don't do it. Say you there we are sanitation, we are not disposing wrongly. But Portugal J. Okay, they all form part of the problem. International checking attitude, checking action.
Greater Accra Minister, one of the best regional minister.
Honorable Awuku, Obenewa.
The current regional minister.
Honorable, they say you
know I judge the best regional minister.
Honorable, Greater Accra minister. Or I got a free night handsome.
No, great award. I don't know your mind. They just want to know if it's that woman. She's done well. She's not well to manage. Or Tina manages situation be a really best regional minister.
What situation?
But she told you she has managed the but
they have different criteria. And take their sanitation will carry a lot of weight.
Symptomatic of the general malaise, the general situation now. So you see in the kingdom of the blind, one eye is king. No comment.
That's comment.
Yeah, that's why sorry, so
well, maybe I think Sammy McCappy. First of all, the minority is also preparing to also speak about the matter. We think the government must go back to what was started. They say, don't waste your time on a technical matter. That brainwork, consultation, and all that has been done. Initiatives are President Kufuor Fias here on Dr. Bamayamu Fias here. The storm drains, the dredging of the Addo River, also the flood warning system, the holding detention centers for issue. These are the practical solutions. In any phase, government should immediately dissolve our anti-flood committee now. What's here? Look, we cannot have a deputy chief of staff who has no controlling and compelling powers to supervise two ministers. The two ministers don't even know who is in charge of the flood situation. And to dissolve that one, make sure you are clear in your mind which ministry is handling water, flooding, sanitation matters. That will be my last word.
Okay. No.
Abraham, since I'm in my civil society, I'm here in NGO as we are into these things. I think the Kakra Musumaka Day. Whilst you're talking about all these infrastructure, the government investments, and support systems, as you know, as a crucial education, I think the Ghanaians ought to be educated very well. I mean, education, I am now challenging Kakra because we are always reacting. issue this now it's them you're educating asam kada, but I think the government has to be very intentional, consistent with sensitizing the people. Na Ghana for the civic rules or the play. I think that if the Ghanaian is able to the awareness or very deep in the minds of the people the enforcement will be a bit relatively easy. In the Army and Science Africa now, we are available to support in terms of this education sensitization drive. The little that we can have that collaboration. Bus stop boys, a lot of institutions are there. Now you and collaborate to see that the Ghanaians are also, the Ghanaian people are also well sensitized and educated. Them it's also very easy from the other side, because you see when you are dealing with people who don't understand a given problem, honestly you're another dimension, yet sometimes it's very difficult. And that's a little I would say now. Whilst talking about education, so you see one institution, I think they're also very problematic, which I know that they be working about funding, the NCC. Okay, so whilst talking about education, I think institutions like the NCC, or that money work now, you're empowering well. Then that kind of awareness, the understanding of the Ghanaian people. So
Doc, maybe if you may permit me just a minute. Apart from NCC, Addo can they say about people's civic duties as well, what to do as a citizen. One critical institution is also Meteorological Services Department. I sit on a committee of parliament where I'm vice chairman. We deal with agencies of state, and Meteo is one of them. They are under-resourced. Agencies still be kakra before your committee. We sometimes have to pressurize them to pay meteorological services for the services rendered them. Wow. I'm telling you. Agencies still be for God knows how long. And now almost no measure, they can tell you when let's them create information. Normal themselves will tell you, say, even equipment need be a modern equipment that they also need to be competitive and get accurate information is a problem. The operational needs, and look, situation now, there's something happening within the atmosphere and the climate. And then our uneven rainfall patterns, that agency must also be supported. But the second matter I'll come in is EPA, Environmental Protection Authority. And it's still the Ministry of Local Government and the Assembly. You see, in so not to tell you, and told me anyway, Niatoma, they say, one with the residue. If you know about it. Now you also have a health crisis at hand. You have cholera staring you in the face. You have malaria also giving you a package. So we have a whole health matter. And that is why I believe, say, the aftermath of every rains, will be devastation. Into how are we also planning to look into these matters? And I think that it's time government looks at the support for the EPA as well, looks for support for the assemblies in helping clear the debris and the aftermath of the rains. And that of the metro services. Thank you.
Okay. And so for aha ene de nkomodie ni se kwabena bo ache se ona bo menkan chos watch ya ona wo hu sa na pe why wild pant menkan chos so mbe raise fund na woman for mo ho ahye o mo no
kwabena wadaroma